We're visiting the Mark Twain Memorial in Hartford, Connecticut, to talk with a writer-photographer named Glynne Robinson Betts, who did a book called Writers in Residence. Glynne, what can we learn about the writers that are featured in this book?
Well, Mike, you can learn a lot about them. You can see their houses and how they lived, their lifestyles. You can see where they wrote, and how their environment shaped their work. Because where we live often does shape our work if we're artists. And I hope I've captured that in the book. I think I have.
What kind of photographic skills did you have to rely upon when you were doing the book?
When I first started out in photography, I studied with Paul Caponegro, and I worked with a large format camera, 4x5. And I really got into still life and large format work. And then I took up photojournalism because I started working for a weekly newspaper and doing publicity work and portraits and that kind of thing. And so this book was really a synthesis of those two experiences. And I was able to put all of my experience to work. I was able, for instance, when I came to a place like the Mark Twain house here, where I was allowed to spend some time and to set up my shots, I could use the skills that I had learned from Paul Caponegro. And then if I came into a situation where I was only allowed to spend an hour and I couldn't set up any lights and so on, then I had to do grab shots like I do on the street. So it was a very good experience for me to bring all that together.
Glynne, what's the significance of the room that we're in right now?
This room was the schoolroom of the Mark Twain house in Hartford. This was the room that was originally designed to be Mark Twain's study, and this was the room that he as he put it, connived with the architect to make his study this way. And he liked it a lot, and for instance, he designed the divan over there from something that, he didn't design it, but he took the idea of the divan over there from a monastery he saw in the Holy Land. He said he would often just leave his desk and go over there and stretch out and smoke his pipe instead of writing. So the second floor study turned out to be a not very good place for Mark Twain to do his work. And he looked around for a quieter, more private room and settled on the billiard room here on the third floor. And some of the problems with this room are that the walls are very dark red and soak up the light like a sponge, and enormous windows that glare. Well, Mark Twain came up here to the third floor to get away from the distractions of the second floor, and the only problem was that his favorite game was billiards.
Oh, a mistake there, because what a wonderful room to spend time in.
Isn't it great?
It is.
The dark red walls are a problem for a photographer.
Yeah, I guess.
And that big window over there where the light comes blazing in. But a photographer has to be resourceful, so.
And I noticed that you're using a tripod here. Why not just come into a museum room like this, snap off a couple of pictures and leave?
Well, sometimes you could do that, I guess, if everything was perfect, but it never is.
That's
I mean,
right.
if the light is perfect and the setup is perfect. For instance, I had to change things around a little bit on the billiard table so that I virtually set up a still life here so that the billiard cue could direct the eye into the picture, and the wide-angle lens, of course, took in the desk beyond the billiard table and the bookshelves and so on, and yet I wanted to have a bit of the window in the shot so that you'd have a sense of the high ceilings and the way this is kind of a garret room. Now you can see why I wanted to use this house of Mark Twain's in my book, Mike. Although he lived many places, this was the house that looked the most like a steamboat for me. Mark Twain was one of America's best-loved writers, and he spent 17 of the happiest years of his life here. So that's why I wanted to photograph this house. It wasn't the easiest house to shoot in, but I liked it for that reason, I guess, because it had a lot of challenges.
Well, Glynne, thank you very much for being on our show. We sure do appreciate it.
Enjoyed it, Mike.
Thank you.